When I started with you guys, I had 32 students, and I was barely making enough to pay my electric and phone because I own the building. We have an
Right.
apartment upstairs. His rent pays my mortgage. So the only thing I've got to worry about is utilities and supplies and things like that, taxes. So you kind of have to do it, and I'm certainly glad that I did because I've gotten 23 people since we started, and I've got 2 people coming in tonight, 1 person coming in tomorrow. Had 1 person last night who's coming back again with their parent to do a parent-child class, and it's just something you got to do consistently. Sometimes you figure you can't not afford it. No matter what your situation is, you got to do it in order to be able to bring revenue in. At least kickstart it. To get this. Start the tap flowing. Got the space I need for 120 people. I just need to bring them in and start it. And I started a 3 and 4-year-old class, okay, for 3 and 4-year-olds, which I thought I would never ever do again. Even though when I was teaching physical education, my favorite class was the pre-kindergarten and kindergarten class. And so I've got 2 students in it now, and they absolutely love coming here. And
Right.
it's only a half-an-hour class, but I get them 3 times a week, and they absolutely run in the school shrieking, "Oh, what are we going to do today?"
Yeah.
So we do all sorts of cool stuff, and if anybody's interested in that, that's a niche they can work with also.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to our 7-Figure Dojo Secrets training and podcast today. I have Mr. Robert Zing from Zing's Karate Center. Glad to have you, sir.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So very excited to talk with you. Can you tell everybody a little bit about your school, where you're located, stuff like that, just as we kick it off?
Okay, I'm located in Ranson, West Virginia, which is in the very eastern panhandle of West Virginia. So if you look at a map, it looks like somebody's giving you the bird. So I'm in the very tip of the thumb part next to Washington, D.C. I'm only about an hour or so outside of Washington, D.C. And I started my school here in 1984
Mm,
when I moved up from the Northern Virginia area when my sensei said, fly, little bird, fly, go on your own. And I started my own school. At first, I started in a little community center for a few months until I had enough people to open up a storefront. And then I had a small storefront, maybe 22 feet by 22 feet, a bathroom and an office,
wow.
and started to build up my program. And the owner of the building told me that I could expand into the warehouse if I wanted to, because he stored a lot of excess building materials back there. And he said I could have anything I wanted, just, build it myself. So after class, my students and I would go out into the back room and we'd pull nails out of boards and we'd sort lumber and sort paneling and insulation and stuff. And then on weekends, we'd get together and we'd build out the walls and the ceiling and the electrical. And fortunately, I had a couple of guys who knew how to do electrical and plumbing and stuff. So we were able to get all that done. And I wound up building out into a 3,000 square foot dojo. And the original training area we turned into my office and a waiting room. And the guy had really nice material back there that he said, "You're free to use it." And it was like,
Wow.
so you walk in, you go, "Wow, this is a karate school." And I was in that. I opened up July 1st, 86 or 85 in that building. And then
Yeah.
exactly 1 year later, to the day, June 30th, the restaurant next door to me caught on fire and burned everything down.
Oh my
And so I
gosh.
lost everything. And
Oh man.
so my dojo burned down. I had nothing left, and I was very down. And I said, well, you know, it's the things I lost is difficult because I collected those things over many years, all my trophies, all my certificates, all my gis, all my
Yeah.
paraphernalia. But the martial arts is here and here. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not the material things. So I went back to the community center for several months until the building that I'm currently in came up for sale. And it was a church that had outgrown its size, and they had built a new church on the other side of town. So this building was up for sale. So my in-laws purchased the building as a tax write-off, and I rented from them the bottom floor for the dojo, and the top floor was an apartment that they rented out for money for them. A few years ago, they passed away and my wife inherited the building. So if I thought paying my in-laws rent was tough, pay your wife rent. I mean, I was like, where's the money? Where's the money? I thought I'd wake up with
That's great.
broken thumbs.
That's
But
great.
so anyway, we own the building. So it's been a godsend. The most students I ever had was 150. And that
Mm,
was when I was in my other building before the fire. And I was
yeah.
really rocking. And then after the fire, we rebuilt into this current building, and the most I've had in this building is about 120.
Hmm.
Okay. And then back in 2008, when we had the housing crisis,
Yeah.
my my membership just really tanked just to a hardcore few. And I kind of hung on for a few years. Then it started to get better, and but it just never came back to that same level. And
Yeah.
I've been really struggling for several years. And this is more of a, it's a business, but it's a hobby, but it's a
It's a
life thing in
lifestyle.
myself. And I've thought about closing, but I'm like, no, I can't close. God, it would just kill me if I closed. Well, last summer, yeah, I tried a couple of different marketing companies, and
Yeah.
I had one marketing company that convinced me to do a fitness kickboxing kind of deal.
Yeah.
And I thought we were going to do maybe, 2 classes a day, 3 or 4 days a week, something like that. Well, they wound up getting me 208 students just for the kickboxing program. So
Yeah.
they had me, the way the contract read, I had to teach whenever they wanted to be there. So we had to figure out, I had 14 classes a day,
Oh my goodness.
6 days a week. And the only day we didn't have class was Sunday. And I had to hire 2 other instructors. So we had like 5 classes in the morning, 5 in the afternoon, 4 in the evening.
Yeah.
And I hired them, and I actually had to move my class upstairs to where the apartment was and hold my class up there because we needed more space for the kickboxing thing downstairs. Unfortunately, the company was not very honest, and they hit me with a bunch of hidden costs. So it
Yeah.
really, really kicked me in the gut because they literally lied and screwed me. So
Man.
I decided to after that program was over. I mean, it was a year-long program. So after that was over, I vowed never to do another marketing program again. And then it just got to the point where last summer, I just broke down and said, I got to do something. So I
Yeah.
contacted a company that I found advertised on Facebook and talked to them, and they sounded great. And I told them my story from the previous company, and they,
Sure.
oh, no, we don't do that. That's nothing we do. So I don't think they were dishonest in themselves, but their program just did not work for me. I think they were more geared for the high-end gymnasium, gyms and places like that, but it just was not meant for a martial arts school. And
Mm.
I spent a boatload of money marketing with them, and I got one student. So,
Mm.
and then after that, I finally just cut ties with them in last November. Said, dudes, I wish you well, but it's just not working for me. And
Yeah.
we didn't leave on bad terms. They said, well, okay. And then, so I said, I'm never going to do this again. I'm never going to do this again. Well, then I saw one of your ads. Okay. And I'm like, oh, not again. And then I realized that I knew your dad. And
Yeah.
oh,
Crazy world.
okay.
Crazy
And
world.
and I realized that he and my sensei were friends. Okay. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, all right, okay. These people may be the ones I want, because
Sure.
they seem like they wouldn't, do people wrong. So with consultation with my wife and other things, I just said, okay, we'll do it. And of course, you were much better priced than the previous company and have done much better service than any company I've ever worked with. And what I really appreciate is the all the different people that are willing to help me get over my misgivings and my fears and my bad, you know, habit, bad things from all those other years,
Yeah.
and actually trust somebody to do this program again. Now, I've been in this game a long time. I started when I was 12 years old back in 1967, and I've seen and done just about everything.
Sure.
But and I had to break a lot of habits. I'm not the kind of guy who's gonna, you know, sell something to somebody without telling them how much it is. I'm not gonna try and, push something that I can't deliver. I
Yeah.
tell you exactly what I'm gonna do. This is exactly how much it costs. If you don't like it, there's another school down the street that you might like.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
skin off my nose if somebody goes to another place. But you guys have helped me rethink my old ways, teaching an old dog new tricks,
Sure.
and I'm much more open to the way you guys have helped me present my program, my foundations program, have
Yeah.
helped me realize that I needed to raise my prices to a reasonable rate for me, but not something that's going to drive people away. And
Right.
and frankly, I was really worried about raising my prices because I'm like, oh man, people are just not going to do it. They're just going to think it's so expensive. I've had like nobody bat an eye at it. They go, "Oh, okay, all right, here, take my money." I had
Yeah.
one week where I had like 3 or 4 people come in and practically threw money at me to sign their kids up, and I'm like, I've got like 3 different people's money in my hand, and they're handing me contracts and handing me this, and I'm like, "I got money,"
Yeah.
and I had
It's a
to I
good
had to
feeling,
excuse
right?
myself and go into the room and sort it out.
Yeah.
So, so it's been really good. I actually did the, bring a buddy, break a board thing, and, I used to do those kind of things years ago, and, just
Right.
within my own school, and just say, "Hey, bring your friends in," and we would have a big pizza party, and, and then we'd show a movie or something like that, and I've got a 14-foot, video screen that I can project, uh, movies up on, so that makes it really nice. But I wasn't when you had the idea of doing the Kung Fu Panda pizza party, I was just like, "Oh, man, I wanna do a Kung Fu Panda party," you know? I did the
Yeah.
Karate Kid years ago, and I did, "Oh
Right,
my god,
right.
Kung
It
Fu
brought back
Panda,
bad
are you
memories.
really?"
Yeah.
Well, I actually said, "Okay, I'll do it," and I got out there, and when I started buying supplies for the party, I was kinda got into it. "Oh, we're gonna buy some prizes where kids will take a drawing," and I went to Walmart and
Yeah.
spent I didn't spend much money, but I had a lot of things, and, all the kids that showed up between my students and their friends and people who saw it, from somewhere else or from other people, we had a really nice time, and I taught, like, 2 or 3 classes. I taught a jiu-jitsu class, a karate class, a weapons class, and I had the parents out there with the kids, and everybody was eating pizza, and we had, broke everybody broke a board, and it was a lot of fun, and I kinda got out of my comfort zone and
Yeah.
did that, and, I mean, when I was younger, I was really into that stuff, but I'm an old fart now, so I was kinda like, "Oh, I don't wanna do that," but I
Yeah.
had fun, and so I'm gonna do another one coming up just before the summer to kinda kick off my, summer camps that I'm gonna do and, the summer kids and teen program. So,
Yeah.
um and I've got
Well,
one of my students, her dad runs a company where they rent out bounce houses and stuff. So he's gonna
gonna
supply
be
me
able
with
to
a
help
bounce
you.
house to use, so that's gonna be
Yeah.
kinda so,
No, well, I mean,
yeah,
thank you for all of that. That's
yeah.
definitely an incredible story, of, and I just want to ask you, like, from your perspective, going through all the things from the fire in the school to being burned by so many different companies, like all that, like, what do you think has been a driver for you to keep moving forward? Because a lot of people would have called it quits. Like, what kind of superpower are you harnessing that maybe somebody who's listening to this needs to try to tap into as well?
Well, I like the building up my kids program, so I get a solid kids program, so I keep them longer because when I get teens that are doing really well, once they graduate high school, I never see them again because they go to college, they get married, they join the military, and I rarely see my
Yeah.
teens again. They get just to the point where they're getting to be good, they leave me,
Yeah.
and because life goes on. So if I get my kids program built up, at least I have them for a few more years.
Yeah.
Plus, I want to work on my adult program and get more of my adults. My adults used to be my biggest program, and then for a long time, my kids were my biggest program. Then my adults, then my kids, then my adults. It just went back and forth. Um, I also I'm a retired special education teacher, and I taught,
Yeah.
from anywhere from pre-kindergarten all the way through university, physical education as well as special education. So I've taught from 3 years old to in their 20s
Yeah.
in the institutions and stuff, and I seem to be able to market to that community. Excuse me, that community, and be able to serve the kids who all the other karate schools won't teach. I mean,
Yeah.
in my history, in my past, I've had kids in wheelchairs, I've had kids on crutches, I've had kids who, were blind and stuff like that, and nobody else wanted to teach them.
Mm.
I remember vividly, um, one of my students brought her nephew in or her cousin and said he was like 13 at the time, and she said, "The Taekwondo school down the street refused to teach him. We can't teach you karate. You can't learn karate because you're in a wheelchair." I
Mm.
told her, "Bring him down." Okay, so
Yeah.
he came in and was with me till he was a brown belt, and then he wound up having to his parents were transferred overseas. So, but he's now a black belt and does Eskrima and Kali,
That's
and
amazing.
jiu-jitsu, and he studies in a different state, but he's still involved in it, and he's in his
Yeah,
40s now, I think, with a family of his own.
that's
So,
incredible.
it's so I seem to be able to attract that community because people are they need something. And if I can provide it, why not? I'd rather somebody have even if the kid's only with me for 5 or 6 months, okay? The parent and the other relatives know that I stepped up to teach their child when everybody else said, no, you can't learn martial arts because you're X, Y, and Z. I have a lot of kids on the autism spectrum in here. I have at least 4 or 5 right now. That's about the extent of my special ed kids, but they're in the regular class with everybody else, and they may take a little longer to catch on, or they catch on real fast, but then they have a short attention span and want to sit down. So it just depends on their individual thing. But I've got training in that, so it's something that I'm able to come up with. And most of the other kids, they don't even bat an eye. They're just like,
Yeah,
oh, okay, that's Billy. That's just the way Billy is. And there's no issue with the kids being, negative towards them. So
yeah,
I'm really pleased that I can offer that to that community of student. And I've had various over the years, and I'll have them again for the next 20 years. So it's something that I really feel strongly about. Also, I've got a lot of people who have been bullied
mm,
pretty badly. I mean, that's
yeah,
one reason I got into the martial arts back in the early 60s, mid 60s, is ever since I was in third grade, and that was the very first time I was bullied by the bigger kids because
yeah,
I hadn't grown up yet. I'm 6'2", weigh 300 pounds. So, I wasn't always this big.
yeah,
So, and I got, bullied quite a bit, and I was afraid to go to school. I didn't want to go to school, didn't want to go here, but I had to, and I had to endure that. Unfortunately, it wasn't very often, but it would made a significant impact. And when I
right,
was in middle school, that's when it really took over. A bunch of the bully kids, they were all ganging up together, and they decided I was going to be the one that they were going to go with, and until we got goaded into a fight, and it kind of went neutral. There was no real winner, but
sure,
they were the ones ha 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 ha. But
yeah,
one of my friends happened to be a little Japanese kid that had just moved to the United States with his parents, and I had been his first friend in the United States. And he was taking a class on the military base where we lived, close by. So he invited me to come with him, and that's when I started. And I started
yeah,
right then, right away, and I've not looked back. There's not been a week that I have not been training
that's awesome.
since 1967.
That's awesome. That's an incredible journey. Yeah, my dad as well, he got picked on in school, and that's why he started martial arts. So I think just having that safe place for a lot of kids is really important. And you seem to have taken like a lot of perseverance to this. You're obviously you started with like 30-ish students when you started with us. Now you're close to double that.
Mhm.
Um, obviously the online marketing is one aspect that we're helping you out with, but the other aspect is actually just like getting out there, trying things, getting into the community. If someone's listening to this, what would be one thing that you would tell them as far as maybe they're a little gun shy, a little afraid of
Yeah.
getting out in the community and things like that? What would you tell that person based on your experience of doing that?
Well, I would do in-house events like we did the Kung Fu Panda pizza party, break a board, bring a buddy, that sort of thing. That
Yeah,
worked well for me. I got several students out of that. And although I didn't have much time to plan for it and really spread it out, I did get some response, and I really enjoyed that. And we had a lot of fun. It was actually fun for me. I mean, I've taught physical education for little kids from pre-K up through eighth grade for years, before I switched over to special ed. So I'm used to working with little kids. Um, but I think that sort of thing, whatever theme you're going to make it something fun that you like. It may be tied into your specific art, whether it's Taekwondo or BJJ or karate or Kempo or whatever it might be.
mhm,
Tie it into that and make it fun and have drawings and, prizes and pizza and that sort of stuff. Just kind of step outside of your comfort zone, because that's what I had to do. I had to step outside of my comfort zone and do this again. And although I had done lots of parties and birthday parties and stuff years ago, that was a long time ago. And I
yeah,
just kind of gotten out of the habit of doing that sort of thing. And they were successful back then. And when I redo them again, they're still successful because they work. It's the thing that works. I
sure,
used to do a lot of parades and go to a
yeah,
lot of things like that, and be part of
Mm,
like a festival or something like that. It was fun, but we never really got any traction from it. It was nice to be out in public. Hi, these are my students. We're doing this, that, and the other. And we used to put on some great demos over the years, but we never really got any traction from it so far as
right,
students.
right.
It was nice and fun and all, but it wasn't, didn't get any students. Um, but I've had booths at like the fair and other places where I just stood there and handed out flyers, and I had a big backdrop where it had
Yeah.
photos of us at the dojo, and I had a video going of things we've done, like a competition, and that brought me more people. Okay, but that was, it's just, you've got to find the right venue. Now,
Mm,
our particular town, my dojo is just outside of the main street area of our little town here. So they have a big street festival several times a year where they close off the main street and have booths and car shows and stuff. And I've been part of that a few times.
yeah.
We have women's empowerment events that happen every once in a while, where they take over the street and have a little street thing, but it's all about, you know, uh, safety awareness and, women's empowerment and things like that. And we've set up a booth and had a lot of traction on that. So it just depends. You have to pick out what is going on in your area within a reasonable distance that you can expect people to come to your school. I mean, if I go
Mm,
to a neighboring town that's 5 miles away or 10 miles away, and I do a demo or a presentation, it's not helping me, it's helping the karate school that's next door. Okay. Which
yeah,
isn't such a bad thing if, if I collaborate with the guy, but I want to do something that's more in my little area here. So
sure.
fortunately, there's three karate schools or three martial arts schools in our town. I'm the one that's central into the middle of the town. We have one guy who's a Taekwondo guy on the outskirts of the town, and then we have a BJJ school way on the in between our town and the next town. So we all really don't overlap much because we all teach something different. Okay. So
Yeah,
people have always asked me, so aren't you afraid that Taekwondo school is going to do something? No, not at all, because he teaches what he teaches. I teach what I teach. He's going to get students that like what he does. People will come to me for what
right.
I do. We're not going to collaborate. It's not like he's going to take my students away, or I'm not going to take his students away. So,
Yeah,
I don't really
yeah,
mind there being other schools in the area, but I'm the one who's been here the longest. I've been
right.
here since 1984. I've been in this building since 1986. So it's not like I got my black belt last Tuesday and decided to open up a karate school. So,
Yeah, for
which
sure, for
unfortunately
sure.
happens quite a bit, because
Yeah,
we,
yeah,
we had, before COVID, we had three karate schools, or MMA schools, I would say, open up in like little storefronts or in somebody's basement or in somebody's garage just before COVID. And some of them were started by former students of mine, that had been
yeah,
kid students of mine, and they were adults now, and they wanted to open up an MMA school. And I had two of them actually come and ask me advice. And I'm like,
sure.
so I gave them advice. I said, you got to be prepared, because it's not a grocery store. People are not going to have to come to you to buy groceries. You're
Yeah,
always going to be the the type of thing that people want, but you'll be the first to go when they have to pay their electric bill. Okay. So be
mm,
prepared to be able to get students and hold them, and just be consistent. So you guys have helped me refined that portion of my my spiel, where I
yeah,
have to be consistent. I have to, make sure I'm continuing to do stuff and to grow, and to kind of do stuff outside of my wheelhouse, just so that I stay sharp and not have
yeah,
to just sit back and expect people to walk in the door. I mean, when I was the only school around, that's what happened. I could just sit on my butt and people would come in and practically throw money at me.
right.
But now that there's other people around, situations have changed. We've got 400 different sports team leagues around the area, Girl
Yeah,
Scouts, Boy Scouts, FFA, and all that sort of stuff. There's so many things for kids to join. You have to make what you do appealing to them, that they say, I've got to have that. Okay. And so that's what you guys are helping me refine that, that
Yeah.
I
Getting in
can
front of
do.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. So, I mean, you've been on the inside, you've seen what we are kinda are all about. If someone was, considering working with us, what would you say from just the experience that you've had so far?
I would suggest that they do it as long as they're able to afford it. I mean, sometimes you figure you can't not afford it. No matter what your situation is, you got to do it in order to be able to bring revenue in. At least kickstart it. To get this, start the tap flowing. When I started with you guys, I had 32 students, and I was barely making enough to pay my electric and phone because I own the building. We have an
Right.
apartment upstairs. His rent pays my mortgage. So the only thing I've got to worry about is utilities and supplies and things like that, taxes. So you kind of have to do it. And I'm certainly glad that I did because I've gotten 23 people since we started. And I've got two people coming in tonight, one person coming in tomorrow. Had one person last night who's coming back again with their parent to do a parent child class. And it's just something you got to do consistently. And I tell you, I was really afraid to start asking people to pay in full for the 4-month foundations program. But I've had a whole bunch of people not even bat an eye and write me a check or give me a credit card. I had one guy who was signing up himself and his child and was do a 4-month pay in full. And because I had just downloaded the Square app on my phone to take a credit card where you could just tap my phone,
Yeah.
iPhone, that afternoon and 2 hours earlier, and he said, "Oh man, I don't have a check. I don't have any money. Oh my God, do you take a credit card?" I'm like, "Well, yes, I do." And
Yeah,
I used to have a credit card machine, but they got to be
yeah,
so expensive. I just
sure.
did away with it as soon as I could, and I haven't had a credit card machine for like 5 or 6 years. But because I had it on my phone, he said, "Okay," and boom, twelve
There you
hundred bucks
go.
right there.
There you go.
And I was like, "Oh,"
It's
you know,
working.
yes,
It's
and
working.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I do question myself a lot. I do worry a lot, but I'm continuing to be consistent as much as I think I can. There are still some things that my age and what I've done for 40 years doesn't, kind of it bucks against me a little bit, so I
Yeah.
have to fight against that. I mean, I hate being on the phone and I hate calling people back. I'd rather text them, but you got to call them in order to back up that text and
Yep.
make that. And it's hard for me, but I still do it. And but I like the bring a buddy, break a board idea. And I think with different themes that will work for a lot of people. And I
For
think
sure.
that being able to consistently have several of your employees be in my loop to talk to. I mean, I got a
Mhm.
guy to talk to about the ads. I got somebody to talk to about the IT stuff. I got
Yeah.
somebody who trains me. I got somebody to talk to about this. I got somebody to talk to about that. If this person's not available, I can talk to this person.
Yeah.
So it makes it comfortable for me that I have something and I'm not like intruding. Okay. Because
Right,
the other
right.
company I had over the summer felt like I was kind of intruding. Well, I got a meeting here. I got to hurry it up. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm paying you money. Come on, let's at least
Yeah, for
be
sure.
nice to me.
Sure,
And so
yeah.
I've been very pleased with that. And the ideas you guys have had, if I didn't jump on it at the first second of being mentioned, I kind of warmed up to it a little bit because like the pizza party.
And you crushed it. You did
That
great.
was so funny because I just was like, "I don't wanna do that," and then when
Yeah.
I started doing it, I had a lot of fun, and it worked out, and I got
And you
some
got
students.
students, and that's
So
awesome. That's
so I'm gonna
awesome.
continue to do those. I might not be a panda pizza party, but it'll be something.
It'll be something, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you've got an absolutely incredible story, Mr. Robert. Just a lot of adversity, a lot of things that you've overcome just in your personal life and with the
yeah.
school and just sticking to it. And I've no doubt if you keep doing that, you're gonna keep rising back up and getting back up to where you
Well,
want to
I
be.
certainly hope so. I mean, I've got the space I need for 120 people. I just need to bring them in and start it. And I started a 3 and 4-year-old class,
Mm,
okay, for 3 and 4-year-olds, which I thought I would never ever do again. Even though when I was teaching physical education, my favorite class was the pre-kindergarten and kindergarten class. And so I've got two students in it now, and they absolutely love coming here. And it's
great.
only a half an hour class, but I get them 3 times a week, and they absolutely run in the school shrieking, "Oh, this what are we going to do today?" And
Yeah.
so we do all sorts of cool stuff. And if anybody's interested in that, that's a niche they can work with also.
Lots of opportunities now in
Yeah.
front of you. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Mr. Robert, congrats on being one of our star clients, and we're so excited for your growth and your expansion. And yeah, we're looking forward to seeing more of that. If anybody wants to reach out to you specifically for any ideas, like is the best way to reach you just on Facebook or something like that?
Yeah, well, I have a Facebook page. My email is probably the easiest and the more private one is rzingg at email.com. Not Gmail, but email.
Email.
It
All right.
actually predates Gmail, so it's I've
That's
had it for a
awesome.
long time. But
That's awesome.
rzing at gmail dot or email.com, and they can contact me. I'll be happy to talk to them.
That's
Doesn't
awesome.
hurt my feelings, right?
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Well, thanks very much for joining us today here, sir. And we'll talk with you guys later.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate talking to you. All right. Bye bye.